Hi, I'm Michael Griffith, and welcome to another episode of Where the Rubber Meets the Road. On this episode, we'll be examining what it means to be seen. Before venturing out into the streets to ask men and women their opinion on what being seen is. A very important aspect of the human condition, one that is often overlooked, is our need to be seen as men and women. But what do I mean by being seen? This is not necessarily being visually observed, but rather the feeling like my contributions, my presence are acknowledged. This need is one of the main reasons we as humans instinctually seek out and prioritize connection so much. And this is whether it's in a social context or relationship. In fact, it's the very reason social media has exploded the way it has. Because it offers the opportunity for us to not only see, but be seen. Other ways we see this need manifesting is in the fact that views and likes have become such a motivating factor. People even treat you differently after finding out I got 1 million or something views. But why? Because suddenly that person now represents social validation, the one thing that humans crave. It represents opportunity for visibility. And like with all things, our need to be seen has its downsides. In fact, it's precisely the reason concepts like cancel culture even exist. Because people will go to great lengths to avoid being invisible. For many people, invisibility is both psychologically and emotionally painful. I think it reminds us of when we were babies, before we were able to recognize ourselves in the mirror or identify those involuntary movements in front of our face as our hands or our feet moving. I think it also reminds us that death comes for us all, and eventually we return back to invisibility, and this scares us. One of the most irrational ways we see humans being affected by this fear of being invisible is it can keep us trapped. As we're avoiding growth or never living up to our true potential for fear of being seen. Because for growth to occur, we have to first lose sight of who we were in order to bring who we're becoming into focus. And what is often ironic is, despite humans having a need to be seen, we're often reluctant to honestly look at ourselves. So while we have this deep need to be seen and for acknowledgement, we're simultaneously afraid to see who we are. But why? What do I mean by afraid to see who we are? No one is perfect. And in most cases, taking an honest look at oneself usually means risk discovering that we're not who we thought we were. And oftentimes, that can be unsettling. Because that means who we actually are now becomes invisible. And what makes it worse is we have to now venture out into the wilderness to find ourselves or rediscover who we are. And that can be a scary journey for most. So most people prefer to never even look and remain perpetually stuck. I think that is important to remember. And for this reason, our capacity for growth is often limited by the amount of truth we can handle being reflected at ourselves. In other words, a person can only grow as much as they're willing to honestly see themselves. And it's often easy to recognize who is committed to being a victim or who's committed to growth. Because we usually don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. And people will prefer, or rather make excuses and come up with different reasons why they can't, they shouldn't, or it doesn't seem possible for them, which is usually just a reflection of themselves. Now, for the next segment, we will venture into the streets and ask persons how they wish to be seen, or in other words, what is one word they would use if they were describing themselves. Let's go. So, I'm here with
Leon.
and I'm asking her the question. As a woman, what's one word she would use, or at least most people use when describing her?
Lovable.
Lovable. Like that. So, Leon, why would you hope that people use the word lovable when describing you?
That's lovable.
Very nice answer. It was nice talking to you. So I'm here with um,
Charles Ramsey.
and I'm asking him the question: what is the words he would hope persons use when they describe him? In other words, how does he wish to be perceived or seen, whether it's by his wife, children, or general public?
Positive change. Leading positive change is very important. Change is going to happen anyway, but I think making a difference is really important, especially in relation to people. People are always going to need, whether it's words, guidance, and then also opportunity. My initial interest in politics and government is really because I knew that the country had to change, and it can change for the worse or it can change for the better. But once you have good people involved, I think it will always change for the better, and we have that now.
So I hear you saying you realize that change is inevitable and you wanted to be responsible for that change in a positive direction. I love that. Thanks.
All right, good.
So I'm here with,
Nikita.
and I'm asking her, as a woman, what's one word would describe her experience and why?
Most people would describe me as caring because not only that I care for other people, but I also care for myself. I'm more open to doing more for other people than I do for myself. If you understand.
I understand. I understand directly.
I'm more to that side. Instead of looking after me, I look after everybody else. I put others first before
We gotta
myself.
remember for balance. We gotta remember for balance too. So this is important.
Well, true, yeah.
I really love the answer. I'm here with Nigel, and I'm asking him, as a man, what is one word he would hope that persons use when describing him, and why?
All right. One word that would definitely showcase myself, definitely if you want to put it in that way, is humbleness. And the reason for that is because once your children and people see the humbleness in you, they will have that understanding that what you ought not to come around with any negative energy. Your children will also see that and will also try to emulate you, and they will see your children as being humble just like the father.
I love it. I love it. Hey, thanks again for the input.
Rosetta.
Rosanna, I'm asking her, as a woman, what is that one word or that one thing she would hope people use to describe her? What's one word that comes to mind when she think of herself?
All right, so I can say one word that comes when I think to myself, but I can also go further and explain. So for me, I think it's someone who does not tolerate certain things. So if you are going to respect me, I will do the same or return the same to you. So if you think that you can, approach me in a certain way, I will respond in the same direction. So, I mean, I know it says, when someone slaps you, turn the other cheek, but
Something you got much energy.
exactly, you have to match your energy sometimes. I'm very, very big on that. But what I would also like to extend or share is that as a female, I feel like sometimes you are either overlooked or you are pushed to the background where you may have points or opinions that are definitely key to anything, but because of experiences or situations, you would withhold or keep it in. So with that, I'm just thinking that it should not asking for equality, but I think that as females, what you have to contribute is more detailed or important in anything. So you should take the opportunity to at least venture out to anything that you would want to say or do.
I love that. So what I'm hearing you say is, not be afraid to speak up or don't devalue your contributions to whether it's conversation or a topic.
Yeah, that is exactly what I'm saying, because you may feel like what you have to say may not be important, but you never know. It only takes that push or that intuition for you to actually just say it and see where it goes from there.
I love that. I love that.
You're
So I'm here with intrinsically, and I'm asking him the question: what is one word you would use to describe your personal experience as a man?
Especially as a man, in, especially in Guyana, I think one word that really captures what we go through is resilience. Resilience is a persistent word, and it captures what not only men, but I think people in general have to go through. And that's something I learned from my parents, from my relatives, from family. You know that everybody goes through a lot of stress. Everybody goes through hardship. It's inevitable. Everybody will lose. Everybody will grieve. And all you can do is be resilient. You need to persist. You need to be strong. The time will always pass. You can't get back what you have lost. You know. So being a man, being in Guyana, being around so many changes. You know, not only is the society maturing, but also a lot of changes as we grow older, as we learn things, as the society gets exposed to different things, and as the whole dynamic shifts, you need to be resilient in not only your own identity, but your mentality, what your principles are, what you stand for. Because if you're fickle and you believe anything that you see, or you can't decide on a proper way to carry yourself, you know, you lose all integrity and you lose yourself, you lose your identity.
I really love your response, Jen.
Right, I got it.
Now for the takeaways. I think it's important to understand that the need to be seen is an integral and natural part of the human experience, especially considering that we all die, especially considering that death comes for us all, and eventually we return to invisibility. But that being said, it's also important to remember that our need to be seen is not permission to remain stuck or to avoid growth. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Our need to be seen should be viewed as a contract we have with others, and in most cases with ourselves. A responsibility to reflect the amazing possibilities and hopefully inspire others to do the same. So this brings us to the end of this episode. Once again, I'm your host, Michael Griffith, thanking you for being a part of the conversation. So until next time, I'll see you where the rubber meets the road.